podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
And you expect me to believe that Braun Strowman heading out over to the announcer's table during the IC Contenders match, that he was going to find a nimble 300-something pound Big Bronson Reed, and all of a sudden is going to see him flying in the air, pouncing on him to the announce table. Are you really telling me that?
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Bad-blooded. Feels like it's more cold-blooded the way this booking is going on. Welcome to the Wrestling Store Podcast. Thanks for being here. Listen to the program that you always do, kingofpodcasts.com. And, of course, you find the show on all major platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, YouTube, among other places. Spreaker, that hosts my program. Thank you so much for that. You know, I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts as of late, and when I listen in, I haven't been doing much of it in the last few months, but I wanted to just get myself back into the habit of just hearing what other people are doing in terms of their format and their things, and people that I respect and the way that they do their shows, and wanting to make sure that I'm not doing a show that's going to conform to somebody else's format. That I'm not doing just another wrestling show that's just out there and just blabbing along, hoping that I'm going to just get clickbait out there for the audience. It's not like I don't know how to do that. It's not like I don't know how to stir the shit up and get people to be upset. Hell, if I just start bashing AEW, the crowd will just start jumping on me. But I've been playing the route of I don't care. I'm the fence sitter, as I've said for many years on this program. And when I look at AEW, hey, they're building up another quick turnaround for another pay-per-view match. Well, basically a pay-per-view, but it's AEW Grand Slam. They got 3 matches already scheduled in 2 weeks from now that are set up for the card. And they're good matches. With everybody getting upset like, oh, well, we don't understand what's going on here. Okay. Because part of what people are getting a little bit upset about is they don't understand why is it that at Grand Slam, Jon Moxley is taking on Darby Allin and what's going to be an AEW World Championship Eliminator match. It's actually not a World Championship Eliminator match because of the fact that, well, I guess it is, but we have to keep in mind that people don't even realize, hey, listen, Tony Khan will make matches of importance, stipulations of importance in whatever show he wants, whether it's Rampage, Collision, or Dynamite. Just because it wasn't put on Dynamite, there are some fans out there and some of my fellow radio podcast wrestling brethren that got upset about it. Okay? One of them, I'm not going to call out, but I'm going to say that they were confused as to why they are booking Jon Moxley and Darby Allin and thinking, first of all, it's a world title match. Well, it's not. They don't understand that it was first considered that the confusion is that Jon Moxley is going to go after Darby Allin for the World Heavyweight Championship because Bryan Danielson, after being hurt at All Out, or last week, he's going to not be able to go ahead and compete. Well, that's not what's happening. What everybody probably doesn't even remember or they don't know because, you know, they expect gratification. Oh no, why didn't we learn about the title shot on Dynamite? Because that's the show I'm going to watch is Dynamite. Well, no, they put it on Rampage. Royal Rampage match the week of Blood and Guts, July 14th. I wanted to make sure I looked it up. But I remember that Darby Allin did get a title shot, and it was in the Royal Rampage Battle Royal match to determine who would get a world title shot at Grand Slam. As we know, same thing going on with having title shots being booked for all in Wembley, that they were the champions of the Bret Hart Invitational. It was the Owen Hart Invitational. Excuse me. Bret Hart was on this week, so you can understand my confusion. And so they set up the title shots after those matches. Same way the King of the Ring, they set up matches at SummerSlam. Same thing goes. But King of the Ring was being run on several different programs. So, if it wasn't on Raw, it doesn't matter. Well, it was on SmackDown. If WWE wanted to have a match on NXT, they could have done it there. Look, I can go ahead and give the same scenario and say, well, sometimes you got to watch some of the other programs that you might not necessarily watch to catch something that happens. So Street Profits were going out to the NXT Tag Team titles tonight, or it'll be last night against Nathan Frazier and Axiom, and the Bloodline interfere. The Bloodline on NXT. Who would have known? But we know that coming up, the CW is going to be taking that show up, and they need to go and start building interest in NXT, and that CW, just by having the NXT roster appear on that program, is not going to be enough. They're going to take some of their main roster stars, and not just anybody. It's not like they're dragging Big Bronson Reed or Braun Strowman or Ilya Dragunov or Carmelo Hayes over to NXT. No. They're taking CM Punk. They're taking Randy Orton. They're taking a Bloodline and putting them on NXT to help bolster the upcoming CW premiere in October. I mean, they got to do something. They have to understand that. But yes, you might not understand why Grand Slam got set up with this world title eliminator match just because you want to go ahead and shit on Tony Khan's booking because that's just the way you feel about it. Well, that's on you. Because sometimes on social media, people just want to go ahead and just talk shit and stir up shit just because they want to. And because they're keyboard warriors and they can say whatever they want and they will not back up what they say. And they make sure they have enough of a buffer so that nobody can attack them back. And even if they do, they just say you're a moron, you're a skis, you're whatever. You're a simp, whatever it is. Because also we know that some of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren also believe they are better bookers than Tony Khan or Tommy Dreamer or Triple H and Bruce Pritchard and the folks. I get it. Yeah, you are all Monday night and Wednesday and Thursday morning, Tuesday morning and Thursday morning quarterbacks. Of course you are. I don't give a shit about what you think is better for the wrestling companies because I am of the opinion that I'm just going to enjoy what I'm watching on TV. How about that? But the fandom out here, this is stemming from two different sides. The AEW fans that felt slighted when they were WWE fans, and they are so allegiant to AEW to a fault. That's those fans. So some of those AEW fans come in with the mindset that they want the kind of feelings, the kind of fandom that they had when they felt like WWE was something different, was something better. And so they go over there. And then there's the remaining WWE fandom that is now occupying Raw and SmackDown, and they can go ahead and feel like they can go ahead and micromanage and book all they want. And the reason why they do that is because they feel like Tony Khan or Triple H or all these folks are going to listen. They're going to listen to you fans out there. And they're going to think, oh, whatever you see on social media, oh, this podcast person or this person, like King of Podcasts is going to book an idea. I got a great idea for you. And I'm going to go ahead and get it out there. And it's going to be my responsibility. I'm going to be accountable. And I'm going to be able to take claim that I booked something that was very important and the fans should love me for it. I'm not going to do that bullshit. I could care less. But everybody gets all upset. Listen. So the one person I'm looking at right now saying that Jon Moxley came out and proclaimed Bryan couldn't defend the title against Darby Allin because of what happened All Out. But that's part of the storyline as to the bigger mutiny that Jon Moxley's already setting up. And then calling out Darby Allin. Why did he care about going after Darby Allin, who, in the scheme of things, if we're trying to be logical here, he's not a WWE guy. So Darby Allin doesn't understand why Moxley wants him in the ring. So he talks to Moxley as if he's being recruited. When in fact, Jon Moxley is trying to just basically persuade him to take that title shot away. Because if Jon Moxley wants to make change, whatever this change he's talking about at the very beginning of Dynamite, he wants to be world champion. Because then he will have the pull to be able to go and make that possible. Whatever this mutiny is, we don't know everything about it. We just know there are several members so far that have been positioned. Jon Moxley, Marina Shafir, Pac, and Claudio Castagnoli. We know that for sure. But there's something more to this that's going to happen. Some kind of an invasion angle. We don't know where they're going to go with it yet. I don't care about speculating. I give two shits if it's going to be Shane McMahon coming out or not. But I'm guessing that's what they're going to do because that would make the most sense of the storyline. So I'll wait for that. And then we get Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson. Well, look. I mean, we don't know how much time Nigel McGuinness has to go ahead and have the match with Bryan Danielson. Maybe we're not worrying about the fact that they're going to have Bryan Danielson defending the title, but I guess they're going to. The thing is that if you want to go ahead and book Grand Slam, you just made the return of Nigel McGuinness back in the ring. Rare time to see them together. It's not that hard to go and just stir the shit back up 2 weeks later to set up Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness for the next big event they have. They need to sell out Arthur Ashe Stadium. So you do that. That's a good idea. I like it. You could have waited for Wrestle Dream in Tacoma, but no, we need to sell out Grand Slam. So having this match here and the nostalgia that comes along for the next 2 weeks, that works for me. I like it. I'm glad we even get a chance to have these two wrestling. Listen, let's just appreciate the fact that these two guys were able to come out of severe neck injuries, both of them, where they were also out of action for extended periods of time. And even though we might have seen them on our television screens in some way, shape, or form, general manager, commentary, what have you, at least we get a chance to see this match. Let me tell you, that's wonderful. To see another match with Ricochet and Will Ospreay, that's going to be awesome. I love all of it. So there's confusion out there because if you're not paying attention to the rest of the TV product, that's what happens. But hey, rules are the rules, right? I think about who was it that I was watching in a match? Was it Felix Trinidad in a boxing match? You know, protect yourself at all times. And there was like a thing where a fighter was fighting against Felix Trinidad. Was it him or was it, I think it was. And I remember there was the other fighter, he was, a bit of a scumbag. He took a shot and punched Felix Trinidad, or maybe it was Manny Pacquiao. That's who it was. It was Manny Pacquiao. I forgot it was him. And it was a cheap shot, but it wasn't a cheap shot because you have to protect yourself at all times. And it was like the guy is trying to take a cheap shot to weaken Manny coming back from the corner. I remember it was like that. Same idea. So if you had a misstep and you didn't catch something that happened, then that means you should watch Rampage on Friday nights. You should watch Collision on Saturday nights, and Dynamite on top of that, and maybe just DVR it or just catch up on what's going on, because obviously all those clips they put up on social media and YouTube, so you can always keep up. Listen, if I made a mistake, I can say that to myself as well and say, you know what? I screwed up. I didn't pay attention. And I forgot that match was going to happen. I forgot how Darby Allin got the title shot. I could have very well been like that. And you know what? I would have had no problem. You know me. I don't have a problem. If I make that if I need to make a correction, I'll say it. I've done it. Some of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren are not so humble. They have an ego to polish and make sure that they stay in front of, and that's what they're going to do. This is my way of pumping up and talking about the fact that Grand Slam was something that really look forward to coming up in 2 weeks on Dynamite. And there's two great matches they're going to have. And also, Aussie Open, Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay will go after, well, it's not Aussie Open because Kyle Fletcher, I forget who he was teamed with before. So Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher team up for the AEW World Tag Team titles against the Young Bucks. That's awesome. And then Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson. So that is now scheduled for the World Championship at Grand Slam. I forgot that's going to be done as well. So you set that up. It's not like you need to go and do a long ramp up to build up to these two fighting. And Nigel McGuinness, I thought, did a great job setting himself up for it. Calling for the final countdown. calling Bryan Danielson the American Coward. And by the way, if you've been listening to Collision at all, if you've been watching Collision, since Nigel McGuinness took over commentary, every time Daniel Bryan is mentioned or is in the ring, Nigel McGuinness has just been ripping Bryan Danielson apart, and we'll just go ahead and say some of the most belligerent things on commentary. It was almost as if he was getting himself set up to come back and take on Bryan Danielson. So yeah, look at that. And a weakened Bryan Danielson at that. So I got a problem with what they're doing right there. What they set up and what they plan to go and do for this setup, for this particular set of matches, are awesome. And by the way, they're going to once again do Grand Slam as a 2-part event. First night is Dynamite, and then tape delay, they will give us part 2 on Collision, which is cool as hell. So there you go. And as far as they're concerned right now, the last check I'm seeing here from WrestleTix about selling out Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium at the moment, their current setup for this event is 5,728. They have a little under 2,000 tickets left to sell. And if it works out right, maybe they're going to sell some more seats, open up the upper deck, because that's what they could very well do if things work out right. But they're trying to go and set it up to get to that point. There you go. I like what they're doing. Fun. Great. Quite a setup for Grand Slam coming up in 2 weeks. Now let's move on to the big boys play, right? WWE and what they've been doing right now with their content. They're setting things up for Bad Blood, which is coming up October 5th, I think it is. So far, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley will face each other for the Women's World title. Damian Priest and Finn Balor, and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell. And of course, Adam Pearce had to take off the glasses to say Hell in a Cell, right? Okay. Bombastic. So what have we gotten out of what we had coming out of Bash in Berlin, going into Bad Blood? I already said I've been very much tired of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. And we go once again back to the same old when it comes to Drew McIntyre. Yes, being cocky and being belligerent and stroking his ego because he was able to go ahead and take out CM Punk once again. And the constant Adam Pearce confrontation going on with that as well as before. It's what they do. They set up Wade Barrett, hopefully that they think they're going to have a match with each other, if that's supposed to be happening. By the way, Drew McIntyre starring with Dave Bautista, Killer's Game. I'm going to watch that this weekend. I'll let you know. Maybe I'll give a little review of what's going on after that. Talk about it. So let's go back and take Drew McIntyre versus Adam Pearce confronting each other when it comes to setting up the Hell in a Cell match and the way they decided to go ahead and set it up.
Don't stop. Come on, louder, louder. Chant his name. I'll join in. CM Punk. CM Punk. CM Punk.
Absolutely house show. This is a total house show move, and we're having to watch on TV.
Whenever that name is chanted, it's not about nostalgia. It doesn't upset me. It doesn't frustrate me. Whenever you chant CM Punk, it's simply in memory of. Did y'all see what happened last week? Not the violence, that was poetic. Did you hear what Punk had to say? He walked out to this ring, stood right here and said, I beat Drew McIntyre in a strap match. I touched some corners, so I'm done with him and I'm going to go fight for the world title now. Let's recap. He has screwed me out the world title 3 times in this year.
To start off the feud, which was good.
I pinned him at SummerSlam. And just because he's the best at touching 4 corners in a row, he's suddenly done with me and we're moving on? I don't think so, you arrogant prick.
Oh.
But we should have moved on. This should have moved on a long time ago. Because both of these guys should be going after doing something else. They don't need to be facing each other anymore. This is exhausting.
I know you expect me to gloat about Punk and what I did last week and make some zingers, but I've been talking about him since January. I made him a bigger star, and I have to live with that fact. But I can live with that fact because I am the one that ended CM Punk's career.
So he goes on with this, and I'm like, the talking that he has here is just time filler. And that's the part of this house show feel that, well, he has all this time because there's 3 hours to fill. Now, I wonder what will happen come October when Raw is moved back to 2 hours. It's what, 2014, I think it's 2013, that we had 2 hours the last time it was that way. And it'll be 8 to 10. That's good news. That's actually good news. I wonder if the show will move with a much faster pace as a result. I do expect the ratings to get a little bit more of a bump going into 8 to 10 p.m. coming up. I expect that to happen. And that's okay. Look, there are positives for dropping the third hour. USA didn't take the third hour as part of their advertising, as part of the new $25 million deal they had to carry 3 months of Raw into the Netflix era. But the idea will be that UFC will going to take that 10 o'clock time slot on Monday nights to establish something they're going to have, whatever that's going to be. But the 2 hour time slot for them is a good thing. So I think wrestling fans will benefit of the fact that we don't have any more 3 hour shows like this. 3 hour shows are dedicated to pay-per-views. And that's all it should be. I mean, even right now, I will say it's very tough to go ahead and follow along if I want to go and watch Collision and then say like there's a Collision that happened last week with Rampage back to back, or having Collision with Battle of the Belts. Like those kind of 3 hour shows, on the TV version, I don't really care for. It's like, it's enough. It's done. So I would prefer not to have that anymore. But the other question is that who's going to get dropped out now from that third hour? Because there are obviously several TV feuds that they've had on Raw that have been filling up time. The Wyatt Sicks and American Made, Final Testament and New Day, Pure Fusion Collective against Damage Control, or whoever they want to deal with. Like there's different, well, not Damage Control, it's Natalia and, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, right? The thing is that there are filler feuds that we have right now that will no longer apply coming up with a 2 hour time slot. So who's going to get cut? That, I think, is the most interesting we're going to have coming up after Bad Blood. So after Bad Blood, they're going to have to be taking care of things when it leads up to pay-per-views. So 2 hours is going to be very significant for their particular roster. And who's going to get cut out of it? So I want to know what that's going to be soon enough. Now, back to Drew McIntyre talking to Adam Pearce, which this is their build-up to Hell in a Cell after Drew's been attacking Wade Barrett for 3 minutes.
So if you got something to say it quick.
I heard what you said about Punk. Earlier today, I spoke to CM Punk. And I can assure you, as much as you think you've ended him, CM Punk is not done. Specifically, Drew, CM Punk is not done with you. Oh.
I don't believe you. There's not a chance after what I did last week he wants another piece of me. But let's play hypotheticals right now. Since you're playing games, let's have fun. Who would like to see Drew McIntyre fight CM Punk one more time?
Why do I feel like it's Drew McIntyre kind of acting like he did back in the day when he was going after Teddy Long?
If that's true, and that is a huge if, you're signing his death certificate.
Call it what you want, but it has to end. After the strap match, Punk thought it was over. So did I. So did they. And then last week, what'd you do? You lose your mind and we're back in the fight. And the fight has to end. And it ends at Bad Blood. Yeah, it's going to be CM Punk and Drew McIntyre at Bad Blood one more time. And Drew, I can assure you of this. When it's over, and it will be over, I'm going to find peace. You want to know why I'm going to find peace? I'm going to find peace because I'll know in my heart that it will be over. And it's going to be over because October, Atlanta, Georgia, Bad Blood. It will be CM Punk. It will be Drew McIntyre. It will be Hell in a Cell. Oh, let's go.
With the inflection of Vince McMahon and taking the glasses off to add a little more emphasis. That's what they decided to go and do with this. So we got that going on. There's a lot of extra filler and house show filler going on the program, especially with Raw. And then we're going to see that hour go away. And what are they going to do? And the other part is, you know that some of these projects that Triple H has had, some of his NXT call-ups that you hope would try to get over some way, somehow, they're going to get the shaft. They're going to make sure that the veterans are going to be the ones that are going to be front and center coming up after the 2-hour change, resorting back to 2 hours. You got to have that happening. The longer matches, they're going to have to take a step back on those too, to want to make sure they're going to get that done. Unless they think they're going to be able to pull 4 or 5 matches on a show and make sure they get everything else done. Because let me tell you, it's going to be tough for them to go ahead and try to adjust the 2 hours for that show with what they have right now on that roster. Because they did build up that other roster on Raw to make that more of getting the enhancement talent, getting some of these talent up there and ready to go and move forward to become something bigger. Hopefully develop them, but they waste time with them. Maybe that gets a little bit better when they have to tighten up the clock. And when they know after they have to have all those commercial breaks they're going to have in there, which is going to make up for what? Maybe 26, 28 minutes of their whole show. They're going to have to worry about commercial breaks. And they're going to make sure that within 90 minutes, 94 minutes, 95 minutes, they're going to have to go ahead and make sure to get an hour and a half of programming. They're going to have to go ahead and put some people on the wayside that are not going to get interest. You know, if you're going to build up the pay-per-views every 4 weeks, whatever you're going to be doing, these tournaments that they're doing right now, you're going to have to shorten them down. The house show loop will not work in this 3-hour format anymore. So they're going to have to be forced to change. But it doesn't change anything about what they're not doing still when it comes to who's important and what they're doing in storylines with some of these stars. Okay, so Wyatt Sicks, they end up finishing off American Made in a street fight. I'm befuddled on how the fact they even got to this match in the first place, why we even had this feud in the first place. It's one thing to have the Wyatt Sicks and understand what they've been doing here and how they got here, which that was fine when they first started it. But trying to make sense why Chad Gable was the reason they wanted to go ahead and make their first move, and they haven't been attacking anybody else. In their initial attack backstage, it was Chad Gable. And I forget who else there was. But it's Chad Gable. Do we ever honestly get a reason why we had this in the first place? And American Made were just part in the crosshairs because of the fact that Chad Gable joined them and brought that faction together. And then this American Made faction now is buried because of the fact that Wyatt Sicks just made mincemeat out of them in a street fight. Rhea Ripley looks like a joke because she keeps coming down to the ring injured. She's going to come down with a crutch, trying to be valiant and honorable for whatever reason, knowing that she's going to get attacked because Judgment Day is going to do that, but it's very predictable and it's very naive and stubborn and just ridiculous to go and see Rhea Ripley being taken to this. And then waiting for Damian Priest to come in and try to help, only for him to get beaten down. And then Jey Uso, who has no reason to be a part of this picture, also being a part of this. But hey, this is what they want to go and do. But now, for whatever reason, Jey Uso has been so out of picture for a while now. And then he wins a number one contender shot at the Intercontinental title. So he's going to take on Braun Breaker. And I would hope that Jey Uso would have won over Braun Strowman, Ilya Dragunov, and Pete Dunne. And for the fact that Braun Strowman was decimated by Bronson Reed, they want to continue that feud. How do you expect that feud to continue much farther after Bad Blood? Like, do you even expect those two to even have a match at Bad Blood? I don't. But this is one of those TV feuds that isn't real. It doesn't really do much for me. I mean, yes, it's going to be Bronson Reed that will go over in this feud, and I understand why, and they should. But is it really mattering much? I'm not much into Bronson Reed still. So he can do tsunamis. He can do any tsunamis until the cows come home. It's not getting him over. Tsunami is about as relevant or is about as effective as a Jeff Jarrett chair shot. Or to me, guitar shot. Excuse me. That's what it is. And then we get more Finn Balor after the street fight to continue to just basically say spew the same stuff as you said before. For whatever reason. Now, the other section I want to go ahead and focus on tonight that also was just mind-boggling is the setup with Gunther and Sami Zayn for the World Heavyweight title. Because that's another thing that just boggles the mind. I mean, what is it about setting up Sami Zayn to go up against Gunther and using Bret the Hitman Hart as part of the storyline? Before I get to Gunther, Sami Zayn, let me give up some more information that came about Raw when it comes to being, if it's going to be 3 hours or not. Because there have been some stories that have come out. I'm looking for WrestlingNews.co, where I normally go to for news. And initially, we're hearing the story that was Raw was going to go back to a 2-hour show. It's been since 2012 since they were a 2-hour show. But we already know for sure that the USA Network is going to make it a 2-hour format. And that when Raw goes to Netflix, this is according to Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer newsletter, that it will go back to a 3-hour show. Okay. But now here's the thing. It's still going to come down to the fact that some stars are going to get lost in losing that hour. And then I don't know what Netflix is going to do in terms of their format of setting up a 3-hour show and how that's going to look. So Meltzer says it's a 3-hour show when they move like Netflix. It was confirmed, he says, in the big situations that it was a USA Network call, not a WWE call. And they have to go and figure out what they're going to do when it comes to Netflix, because then will there be commercial breaks? How they're going to be embedded? There won't be the amount of commercial breaks, I would imagine. I mean, for the wrestling fans out there, you would be hoping that Netflix will not have any commercials. They'll just run like pay-per-view style for their shows with limited commercial interruptions. But we don't know yet. We don't know how that's going to work yet. So let's go and go to the part with Gunther, Sami Zayn, and Bret Hart. Because there is one thing I do like from this segment, but like they went so long with this thing right here. 12 minutes for this segment, by the way. More like 13, a little bit longer than that. But, you know, Bret comes out, and then the interaction with Gunther and Bret Hart, there's one good line that we're getting out of this. One good line. And then we get Sami Zayn to come in here to defend. And they can only do this in Calgary. But this was a house show segment. Make no mistake about it.
Well, this is the place to be, right? No one took more pride than I did being a champion, but also a Canadian champion. Let me tell you about Canadian champions. Canadian champions will take on anybody. They never, ever duck a challenge. And they have to prove themselves, like I did every night for 20 years, that I was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
But Sami Zayn is no Bret Hart. Let's make that clear, too. But apparently they're trying to pass the torch, it felt like, when I looked at this segment. So now let's go and pick up what Gunther is saying and how this gets set up here. I mean, Gunther hasn't really done well with any particular feuds or any particular promos that have gone over. But the heat he's going to get is what he says to Bret Hart. Meanwhile, we're going to go back to Sami Zayn and Gunther again, which had no heat in the first place when they faced each other. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't think I'm wrong. Gunther's only getting heat because he's in the ring with Bret Hart.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive. Bret the Hitman Hart. I tell you this, I'm about to pour my heart out to one of my childhood heroes.
So the build up to get the one line, let's get to that part. We'll go to that. Hold on.
Best ever will be.
You get no argument here.
And this feels a little bit like a passing the torch moment because, yes, you are the best there was. But you're right now looking at the best there is and the best there ever will be.
But again, the heat is going towards Bret Hart. He's not facing Bret Hart.
Okay, now we have business out of the way. I want to express something from the bottom of my heart. I'm serious about this.
Took a long time to get to this point, but it is one good line. I will get it.
Stu said before, all the boys in the back, including me, we all watched you growing up.
He called Wade Stu, if you didn't notice.
And you have always been a childhood hero for me. So I wanted to take a moment to tell you personally that you will always be a close second to my actual favorite.
He delivered this line well.
My all-time favorite is none other than Bill Goldberg.
That was a great line. I will admit, that got me. So I laughed. That was good. But this spoiled the moment for me. Sami Zayn coming out in the Calgary Flames jersey, and I think it's the one of the star that passed away, which they did a tribute to. I couldn't tell you anything about it. Oh, yeah, the Gaudreau jersey, correct. Johnny Gaudreau. I couldn't tell you anything about the Calgary Flames or anything like that. It was a nice touching moment they did right there in Calgary as the memorial was going on, so I appreciate that. But, yeah, Sami Zayn coming out, hometown crowd, basically, and decides to go and, take on here, and I just don't care about this. But, yeah, Sami Zayn taking advantage of the situation.
You've got a lot of nerve standing in this ring, in this city, talking to this man the way you just did.
I'll show a promo. Why does he have to jump in?
Joke? You want to make jokes about Bret Hart being a hero? Guess what? It's not a joke. Bret Hart is a Canadian hero. And in case you can't tell, he's a hero to every single person in this city. And he is a hero to an entire generation of wrestlers in the back that are still studying this man's matches to this day.
And I feel bad that Bret Hart can't see the level of competition,
and more importantly,
from his time here.
He's
at least
a
in the
hero
promo
to
work.
me. And you may have that championship around your waist, but Bret Hart is the one who set the tone for what it means to be a champion.
But Sami Zayn shouldn't be talking because he hasn't worked well as a champion.
But what do you do, huh? What do? I challenge you to a match, and what do? You put your tail between your legs, you turn around, and you ran away.
But why does he have to face him? Sami Zayn hasn't, done anything to earn the spot.
You want to see who the best there is? Fine. Prove it. Sami Zayn versus Gunther, part 2 for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Like, in a way, this is like manipulation, like Sami Zayn's the heel. But he's being treated like a face. Anticlimactic is all this. And it's only embellished by the fact that it doesn't feel so bad because the crowd's into it. This house show crowd.
Understand this. With all due respect, Bret, but you're not in my league. And Sami, as much as you want to be, and as much as Bret is your hero, you're far away from being in a league with Bret Hart.
Now that's true.
So what does that tell you? My answer remains no.
It's logical why he wouldn't want to go take on.
A champion to me. That looks like a coward. That looks like a dirty yellow coward right there, walking back to the dressing room. A gutless yellow coward.
It sounds insincere that Bret Hart has to use this in storyline to help out Sami Zayn, but they're using him for that.
Sami and Gunther now face to face.
After the
hitman calls him out like
you want to go into Bret Hart? It's my business, pal. Turn around and leave.
And then they face each other. Listen, I will say this too. Just Joe Tessitore on commentary. I haven't even talked about the fact that he was on there now the last 2 weeks. I will give him credit. He's done a pretty good job doing commentary. He's going to take time to understand the moves and work the way he is, but you might not like to hear this, but he does give you the big fight feel that Mauro Ranallo would give. I feel like even with such a lackluster match like the street fight was, in my opinion, with the Wyatt Sicks and American Made, he made it sound much bigger because that's what he does. And I also like the fact that he continues to do college football and he can still do stuff at ESPN. I love the fact that he's still doing that plus this, which is really nice. Okay, a few other things I want to wrap things up with. All right. Pure Fusion Collective, it's filler content. What is going to get cut out in the short term now that UFC is going to go ahead and drop to 2 hours for 3 months? Because when Netflix comes into play and they get the 3-hour format with probably more than just 90 minutes of time, they'll actually have closer to 170 minutes of time. Like you would imagine that like within 3 hours, maybe they'll still have some promos and things like that, or maybe they will have commercials. Who knows? Or there are a lot more sponsorships that'll be embellished all over the place. But WWE is not going to be able to go ahead and just be complacent and have certain feuds continue. Oh, the backstage stuff with Miz and Karrion Kross, or the New Day stuff, or Pure Fusion Collective, or La Valkyria. All these things that they put in here, they're not going to be able to go ahead and continue to focus on this and give the time that they've been giving to these useless feuds. These feel like never-ending feuds sometimes with no real compelling things going on. And then you have to figure out, okay, what Netflix is going to get, I said this before, I will say this again. They're going to get something different than this, for sure. Because by January, you're going to see John Cena come back and in full force. You'll most likely see The Rock. you'll see a lot more of a lot of things. I think there will be crossover of stars as well, because I think the Raw lineup that they have right now is not going to stay the same, because when it comes to WrestleMania, I think those draft changes are going to go away. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue that or what, or if there's going to be certain stars that will cross over. But Netflix will be expecting a Super Show. Remember when we had Raw Super Show, where we had both sides, Raw and SmackDown stars also, clashing with each other? And at the same time, they're going to have to, at least for October, maybe some of these stars that are going to be taken off of Raw, they could do a thing where they're going to put them over onto NXT for a while and have some feuds over there to kind of build them back up and keep them on television relevant until they bring them back over to Netflix. Now, I could see them doing that, and that would make sense to see like Final Testament or Live Valkyria or Pure Fusion Collective, or, take all those names and embed them into the mix on NXT to keep the idea that they're going to have these arena shows for the foreseeable, I don't know for how long on CW, but they have to figure that out too. And I don't know what they're going to think is going to be the right idea for them. There's a lot of questions to be answered, but it's a big difference. There's no hype on these matches. Like, I don't get excited for any of the matches they give us on a regular basis. Like, what they try to do and what they're going to try to deliver, it just feels like, we go ahead and move along with all they're doing, and it's like, let's get somewhere here. And I don't know. I don't feel it here. But anyways, that's where we are with this. I want to say that Netflix is going to give the WWE a kick in the ass. They're going to have to get their shit together before they get over to Netflix. And, the first test will be, what do they do with the fact they have to go and trim down to 2 hours? Who's going to get the axe? Who's not going to make the cut? And what are they going to make important on those shows? And then they're going to have to go ahead and find a way to expand after that. It's a shuffle of CW to impress that audience, to get Raw going through 2 hours or 3 hours. They got a lot of stuff to deal with. Anyway, come back for another Wrestling Zero podcast next week, because wrestling needs us.